Guys, welcome back here to Intuitive Angling, and really appreciate you guys checking today's video out and spending some of your day with me. And guys, today we're going to be talking about how to catch more bass on jigs than any of your buddies or anybody that you know about. A lot of people struggle with jigs. A lot of people don't have confidence in them. It's sort of like a lost art as far as just the old school pitching and flipping a jig. I'm not really talking about the finesse jig so much in this video. That's for another topic, because finesse jigs and like the full-size jig, like my Blaukat Throwback jig, these are completely different categories. But I want to give you guys some really good tips and advice on how to fish a full-size jig, just the old school full-size jig. We're going to dive into it pretty deep in today's video, and definitely think it's going to add, I know it's going to add up to some more bass for you guys if you use these tips. And also, guys, we're going to be talking about my Blaukat Throwback jig from Cumberland Pro Lures. This is my jig that I've been making, that I've helped design with Cumberland Pro Lures. Living rubber, hand-tied skirt, guys. Attention to detail, second to none. Living rubber is the best type of skirt material for a jig. And the thing about it is they're hard to find. You can't hardly find them because most companies use silicone because it's cheaper, and they just put collars on them. It's easy to make. But these hand-tied living rubber jigs, you can't beat the action of them and the glow that living rubber puts out. So this is my Blaukat Throwback jig. We got 7 different colors, 3 different sizes. I'll put that link in my Tackle Warehouse link in the description of this video. And also, guys, one quick thing here. Fishing is really good here in Missouri on Table Rock Lake and Stockton Lake right now. If you guys are interested in booking a private on-the-water personal lesson with me, shoot me a private message on my Facebook page, Intuitive Angling with Randy Block, and I'll get you the details for that. So I really appreciate it. Okay, guys, I've been fishing jigs longer than any lure. I started fishing them, back in the 70s. And back then, it's sort of like it's come full circle, because back then, this was about the time that living rubber came out, back in the late 70s. Before that, it was like bucktail and marabou. Silicone hadn't come on the scene yet. It was all living rubber when I started using it, and we always put a pork frog on it, either a black pork frog or a brown pork frog. And it wasn't until probably sometime during the 80s when you started seeing the silicone skirts enter the market. And then silicone, ever since the 80s, has dominated simply because it's cheaper, it's easier for the manufacturers to make, and there are very few companies that put out a living rubber jig like mine with Cumberland Pro Lures. It's simply because they're hard to tie and labor intensive. But guys, I can tell you from somebody that has been an avid jig fisherman, and 4 of the 5 national tournaments I've ever won have come on jigs, pitching and flipping them. So this is the type of a bait you really need to fish, because it produces quality. It produces more quality fish on the average than about any other lure. And there's a lot of nuances and tips I want to give you guys, because most people that I talk to, they don't really like fishing jigs. They say they don't get many bites on them, and they'd rather use a Texas rig, creature bait or Texas rig worm or something Texas rig. They just don't use the old school jig. So I'm going to give you guys some tips that will help you out on that. Okay, first of all, color is a big deal, and I keep it pretty basic, guys. I use I'm sort of going to go over the colors here that'll help you out, and then we'll talk some more about trailers and where you fish them at. But for example, everybody's favorite, the black and blue. I'll use the black and blue jig pretty much when the water visibility needs to be under 2 foot, really under about 1.5 feet. I like it in dirty water, not muddy water, but dirtier water. Really good color. I match it up with primarily 2 different trailer colors, either a blue one like this or a black one, just depending upon, the water clarity. But that's going to be my, deal for 1.5 feet, 2 foot or less like that. The other jig color you need, I've been talking about this a little bit on my channel, is a black and chartreuse. This is truly an old school color here, guys. You don't hardly ever see people throwing black and chartreuse. And notice how much brighter the chartreuse is on living rubber versus silicone. That's another big factor with it. But black and chartreuse, this is the color you want to use during the rain. If it's raining out, always put a black and chartreuse jig on, or dirty water. The black and chartreuse jig for me is when water visibilities are under 1 foot. Anywhere between 4 inches to 1 foot is where I got black and chartreuse. And again, I mix them up with various trailers. It's usually either a blue trailer or some type of a black trailer, but that's my dirty water color there. Okay, the next one, my favorite, is everybody needs, is you need a brown and an orange. Brown and orange is a really good spring and fall color. Now, the thing about brown and orange that'll help you guys out is keep your water temperature in mind. Anytime the water temperature is in the 50s, I catch a lot of fish on a brown and orange jig. I don't care if it's in the 50s in March or if it's in the 50s in November. Brown and orange, really good color in the waters in the 50s. The orange and the brown makes it sort of like, it'll work in a little bit cleaner water and a little bit off-colored water. So most of the time I'm fishing the brown and orange in like 2 to 3 foot of visibility. And I'm usually pairing it up with either a green pumpkin trailer or a brown trailer with that. Okay, the next one would be just a solid brown. This is another old time favorite. It's been around for a long time. This is the one that I use primarily in cleaner water. So this is going to be when water visibility is over 2.5 or 3 feet. Just an old school brown jig catches a ton of fish still. Usually I pair it up with a green pumpkin trailer. It's probably my favorite. I also like a blue trailer. Blue trailer on a brown jig, I've caught a lot of fish. And sometimes I'll use a black trailer too. And with the trailer color, guys, you just sort of have to mix it. You have to experiment a little bit because the trailer color in correlation with your jig color has a lot to do with like your light intensity, your water clarity, time of year. And also when I fish like a green pumpkin type trailer, a lot of time I'm putting dye on it, like an orange or chartreuse dye on it. Okay, here's one of my favorites, guys, that I use a lot that you can't hardly find, but I've caught a ton of fish the last 2 years on this. This is green pumpkin with chartreuse. This is a really good stained watercolor too, especially in the fall time and the summertime of the year. I'll put a green pumpkin trailer on it, fish it in water visibility of under about 1.5 feet. Even with the green pumpkin, the brightness of the chartreuse, something about it they just really react to in that warmer water. So when that water temperature is in the 70s and 80s, late summer, early fall, this green pumpkin with chartreuse, I catch a lot of fish on it. And primarily the only trailer I do use on that one is a green pumpkin. Okay, so that's little bit of an overview of the colors. Now let's talk about the head weight and the size of the jig. This has a lot to do with it because in the Blaukat Throwback jig, we make 3 different sizes, which is a 3/8, a 1/2 ounce, and a 5/8. Covers about any situation you want to fish with. There are some situations, but not many, where you need like a 1/4 ounce. Most of the time, the 3/8, 1/2 ounce, and 5/8 is going to work pretty good. So here's sort of my guideline for jig sizes. A lot of it has to do with how heavy the cover is. Sorry, another glitch in the video. I've had something with this dang camera. It's like it says my storage is full, but then it says it's not, but it says it shuts the video off and says the storage is full, so I have to delete some pictures to keep filming. So anyway, we're back. Okay, so the 3 different sizes. Now, the size that you want to use has a lot to do, again, with the cover that you're fishing. Obviously, the heavier cover you're trying to penetrate, thick matted cover, thick bushes, that type of stuff, you need to go to a heavier jig, like the 5/8 ounce, or if it's really windy. Day in and day out, just, your average pitching and flipping around shallow targets, a 1/2 ounce is a good size. 1/2 ounce catches a lot of fish, it's got a good fall rate, so that's just sort of my go-to day in and day out. And then if I'm fishing shallower water that is a little bit dirty, that's when I go to the 3/8 ounce. It doesn't really have anything to do with the water temperature on any of these things. I have found it has to do with more of the water clarity in the cover. So sometimes I will use a heavier jig in dirtier water too, but if I'm fishing dirty water, like water visibility that's like less than 12 inches deep, and my cover that I'm fishing is like 1 to 3 foot deep, that's when I like a 3/8 ounce on there. But again, a lot of it is you just have to figure out what the fish want day in and day out and experiment with it. There's a fine line between being efficient with the size that you're using, as far as being able to put it where you want to based upon how hard the wind's blowing or how thick the cover is, and the rate of fall that the bass want to hit that jig at, because the rate of fall has a lot to do with it. And also the rate of fall is going to be affected by the type of trailer you're using and the line size. Heavier line or curly-tailed trailers on a jig, it's going to slow the fall down. So all that stuff needs to be factored in too. We could talk for a whole day on this. I'm just trying to skim the topics on that. So those are the primary colors I use. Those are the primary jig sizes that I use. Now, trailer-wise, as far as the type of trailer, I know there's a big gravitation anymore towards those curly leg trailers, like the Speed Craw and the Rage Craw. I don't like them, guys. From my experience in jig fishing, I catch more fish on just a chunk type trailer. This is a Zoom super chunk here. I usually either use a super chunk or a Zoom big salty chunk. Look, like this right here. This is a Zoom big salty chunk. These are my two primary trailers. In my own jig fishing experience, from experimenting with every trailer you could possibly think, those are the two that get me the most bites. And again, the colors of them, just like the jig, skirt colors, it's just a matter of experimentation. It goes along with water clarity, the same way that we're talking about with, the jig skirt there. Okay, so that's the primary thing with that. Now let's talk a little bit about how to work a jig and how to set the hook on a jig, because I think this is another issue of problems with people have it. A jig is basically like fishing a worm, except you work it a little bit different. The bite is the same. A lot of people, it's like they don't know if they can feel the bite on a jig or whatever. There's no difference, guys. The jig bite is the same as a Texas rig bite as far as how the fish hit it. But I work a little different. Now, this is how I work a worm. I'll cast a worm out there, and I'll just sort of shake it like that and pull it along the bottom. You shake my rod tip and pull it. But I'm not doing that with a jig. I want to hop a jig. So I'll cast it out there, I'll let it hit the bottom, and then I'm gonna go boom, boom, like that. Let it sink, boom, boom. Let it sink like that. I don't care if I'm pitching it over open type water or if I'm pitching it in thick cover. If I flip this thing like in a lay down tree, I'm doing the same thing. I'm going boom, boom, hopping that jig. This is one of the things that keeps people from catching fish on a jig is they try to fish that jig, just sort of shaking it and moving along the bottom like a worm. You want to hop that jig off the bottom, get that reaction strike with it. A lot of times what happens is this jig will be on the bottom like that, and these bass are going to come down on it. They're going to nose down on that jig. And if you hop it real quick like that, sometimes it creates a reaction strike with it. So hopping that jig is a big deal with it. And also, guys, one thing that I'll tell you about jig fishing, it helps to go to heavier line. I usually use on all of my jigs. If I'm fishing my full-size jig, I use 20 to 25 pound test line 95% of the time because I'm fishing it in and around shallow cover. The only time that I would ever use like even 15 or 17 pound test line would be like, say for example, I'm fishing some boat docks that have pilings in the water that are clean and there's nothing for me to get hung up on and the water's clear, then I might use 15 or 17, but 95% of the time it's 20, 25 pound test. Seaguar Vizex, guys. This is what I use to flip and pitch with. I'll put this link in my Tackle Warehouse link if you want to get a spool of the Invizex. I think this is the best flipping line that there is. And also, guys, it helps big time. I don't want this to sound like an advertisement, but it helps big time if you use scent on a jig, simply because the bass study it, they get down close. This is the scent I've started using. I absolutely love it. This is the Bait Pop. I'll put this link in the description of the video too, the Bait Pop link. It's got real fish in it, amino acids. And when that bait is down on the bottom and that their nose is that far away from the jig, you can better believe that they can smell it. So having scent on a jig will also help you get a lot of bites. So this is what's gonna help you guys. It's a combination of things. It's gonna be the right skirt color, the right trailer, the right trailer color, the right line size, the right head size, working it the right way, putting the scent on it. All this stuff together factors into it. It's not just one thing that will ensure success with it. But that's just some really good foundational tips to get you started if you haven't done much. And again, guys, appreciate for tuning in. And once more, I will put my Blaukat Throwback jig link in the description of this video. You guys will not be disappointed.